Next up, we have one of my favorites. So as the co-chair of this panel, when Shalini and I were thinking about, we definitely need a panel discussion within media and entertainment that relates to innovation, that relates to storytelling, that relates to content accessibility. We were also thinking about representation through this lens of South Asians and Indians. So we are everywhere, right? We are in the middle of technology, out here in the Silicon Valley. Indians or South Asians are everywhere. But we are not seeing that same representation still being reflected on screen. And that also ties into innovation. That also ties into authentic and realistic storytelling. So here we have a panel that's going to be moderated by Parinda Joshi, who is a Bollywood screenwriter herself, and with some amazing personalities at the juncture of technology and storytelling. Thank you all for gracing our panel.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this panel where story meets stream, creativity and tech innovation in entertainment. I'm Parinda Joshi, and I will be your moderator today. Before we dive in, a quick bit about myself. I am a data and product leader and also a storyteller. I've spent over 12 years in the tech industry and also written 4 novels alongside, a couple of which have been or are being adapted into a movie and a web series. And most recently, I wrote a thriller for Netflix India. We are all living in a golden and slightly crazy age where a film made in Seoul or a web series in Mumbai or a documentary from Tokyo can blow up overnight on TikTok or Netflix. And storytelling is being reimagined not just by writers and directors, but also by coders and entrepreneurs and audiences like all of you. So I'm really thrilled to be here today to discuss how creativity and technology are reshaping the future of entertainment. And I have an incredible lineup of panelists today who are with me, who are all at the heart of it, and who each bring a unique perspective to this conversation. So let's get started. Eric Feng is a general partner at Goldhouse Ventures, a multi-stage fund supporting Asian entrepreneurs. His work sits at the crucial junction of finance, creativity, and representation. Next up, we have Meghna Chakraborty joining us from LA, where she's making waves as a filmmaker and a co-founder of Haldi Hub, which is a creative nonprofit where that's committed to cultivating universal stories rooted in the South Asian diaspora. Akash Saxena heads technology at JioHotstar in India, where he's helping shape how millions of viewers consume content across one of the largest streaming markets in the world. And last but not the least, we have Apoorva Bakshi, who's an Emmy-winning producer and managing partner at Audacious Originals, carving her niche as one of the youngest producers of prolific South Asian productions. A very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here. Let's start with understanding the landscape from different angles. Eric, could you introduce us to Goldhouse and its work in supporting Asian entrepreneurs and creators, and maybe give us a peek into the film and TV projects backed by Goldhouse that are connecting diverse narratives to a global audience?
Absolutely. First off, thank you so much for having me, and thank you all for attending this panel. My name is Eric Feng. I run the investment practice at Goldhouse. We are a collective that unites the Asian and Pacific Islander diaspora. Think of us as Thai, but for people that look like me. At Goldhouse, our mission is to promote 3 things. We call them unity, representation, and success for the Asian community. And one example that showcases all 3 of those pillars in action is the work that we did for a little film called Crazy Rich Asians. So director John Chu, who is also a member of Goldhouse, came to us and asked us if we could help him support the launch of his film. And we were so excited to do so and really flex the power of our network across those 3 pillars. So for unity, what we wanted to do was bring people together. So we hosted a series of events and dinners and meetups with John and the cast of the film and introduced them to a lot of leaders in our community to bring awareness about this project and how important it was. And then for representation, we were really forward about promoting and showcasing the power of this film and what it meant to have an all-Asian cast and have Asians as leading men and women in a mainstream Hollywood film. And for success, we organized buyouts of over 1,000 theaters across the country to make sure that that film debuted at #1 and was commercially successful. And the importance of all that together, when you add it all up together, what it showed was that our stories, our unique Asian stories, are not just about showing the world a different perspective, but they are commercially viable. They can make real money. And that's really important for media, because if Crazy Rich Asian wasn't successful, we wouldn't have Shang-Chi, we wouldn't have Turning Red, we wouldn't have Everything Everywhere All at Once. And that is really the importance of representation. It's not just about showing the world a different perspective, but it's about showing that that perspective is commercially viable, that can connect with audiences, and it can be sustainable over time. So that's the work that we really want to promote. It's not just trying to make people feel good, but it's really about showing that by doing so, we can all actually build sustainable media projects that can find audiences and produce revenue and really create long-lasting value for the entire community.
And we won't have wedding banquet.
There you go. Exactly, yeah.
Okay, and something I'm curious about, as you think about the next decade, what is Goldhouse's North Star in creating content that connects more diverse narratives and brings them to a global audience?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a particularly challenging time right now with a lot of pushback with diverse storytelling. And our mission at Goldhouse has not changed. Again, it's really around those 3 pillars. But pioneering it at the forefront of everything we do is really this idea of creating examples of success that can inspire others. So today's actually a great moment for Goldhouse, because it's May 1st. It's the start of Asia Pacific Islander Heritage Month. It's kind of the showcase for our community. And today we actually launched a list that we call the A100. Think of it as like the Time 100 most influential list, but for the Asian community. And this list is so important because it showcases the great work that our community has done. We're highlighting folks like John Chu, the director of Wicked, as an example of somebody that's done profound work for our community this past year. But the impact of that list is really not just to associate ourselves with John and make him feel good, but it's for the next John Chu, the young kid who is taking his phone out and maybe like recording some fun TikToks with his friends, or maybe trying to go to USC, your alumni school over here, and trying to be a filmmaker. But having that example for success, we hope, seeing that representation, we hope can inspire the next John Chu, which inspires the next John Chu past that. And those are the examples of success that we're really trying to foster at Goldhouse.
Love the idea of expanding the aperture of who gets seen and heard, and it's remarkable to see how funding directly impacts representation. Speaking of which, Meghna, there is still a huge gap in content that authentically reflects the growing South Asian diaspora and the variety of their experiences on a global scale. What can we really do to solve for this?
Yeah, well, I do want to acknowledge that we've come a long way in the last 5 to 6 years. I've also been involved with Goldhouse for a few years, and I used to work in multicultural marketing before that, which is also a very, very new department, the fact that studios actually do that because there are projects to support that. And I myself, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a dancer, choreographer. I grew up in the Silicon Valley, so all of those things are things that I never thought I would be saying here today because those didn't seem like viable career paths. And it's just seeing what Goldhouse has done. I think before Crazy Rich Asians, it was Joy Luck Club. That was like the last ensemble Asian cast, which was 30 years ago. But after Crazy Rich Asians, like you mentioned, there's been so many different projects. And I think for the South Asian community, we still have a long way to go. 5 years ago, exactly, I think Never Have I Ever released, and that has made a huge wave. And I think that real-time impact, or that impact crosses in so many different ways. I was actually a dancer in the first season, and the fact that there are opportunities for South Asian creators who are trained in a specific style, or have a specific culturally specific talent or art form, and that there's real viable pathways to make money in that is very new, and it's starting, but there's a long way to go. I think in terms of filling that gap, I mean, studios are as risk averse as ever. I think even more risk averse now. They're franchises and safe bets are what they're focusing on. In terms of South Asian characters, it's hard for them to go beyond like stereotypical flat characters. And I think, we have to look at the South Asian audience, which is ready. The diaspora is, showing up and creating in different ways. There's YouTube and streaming and TikTok and creators who are building profiles and proving that there's like commercial viability for their content in different ways. And I think just as a whole, we need to start thinking of art, storytelling as soft power, which it is, and really harness that soft power, invest in that soft power in the way that Gold House is doing, because the impact of that goes a real long way. I toured with Diljit Dosanjh this past year, on his North America tour, was documenting the impact of his tour on North American audiences, and it was, incredible to see. There are parents there who grew up here and were embarrassed of their culture and of their clothing and their language when they grew up, and are now bringing their kids to sold-out Diljit shows in stadiums. He became the first Indian artist to sell out a stadium show in Vancouver and Toronto. He made history at Crypto Arena, which, was once known as the iconic Staples Center. And, those kids are seeing Diljit as a superhero. And because of that, they want to dress up in a certain way. They want to showcase that at school. They're seeing that as something that they want to eventually do. And I think that is such an incredible example of, soft power. And we see like Korea investing in K-pop, and that is their cultural export to the rest of the world. And I think as South Asians, we need to start thinking, of that soft power as equally important to achievements in tech and in business, and how that can all kind of work together to, just promote the success and visibility of the community, because media is how we perceive each other. It's how we perceive ourselves. Mm-hmm. It's how we can really shape a very powerful generation in the future. And so, that's what led us to, I'm one of the co-founders of Haldi Hub. It's a new creative nonprofit, and part of that is a fund that is dedicated towards cultivating South Asian art and storytellers first, whether that be in traditional film and TV or in, new media, but really just redefining those pathways for South Asian artists so that there is, like Eric talked about, there's options, there's ways for us, because the stories are there, the talent is there. It's really just about creating that long-term infrastructure and that pipeline.
So keep showing up, keep fighting, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the struggle between authenticity and marketability is something that a lot of creators struggle with, and so that really resonates. Akash, let's pivot to the technology side. What tech advancements at JioHotstar are you most excited about implementing in the next 12 to 18 months that will impact how viewers consume entertainment?
So as a technologist, I'm literally surrounded by storytellers here today and in my day job. I think for us at JioHotstar, and you heard Kiran talk about all the ride we've had, and it's been, with Hotstar and JioCinema, now with JioHotstar, I think it's been 8 years of just unlocking digital in India, and it's been such a ride. The point at which we sit today, and that's something that we've always fundamentally believed as, being a technologist in a media house is always very interesting. And we've always, I think, from a team aesthetic perspective, our DNA has always been to amplify, right? Technology always helps you scale, gives you leverage. And, we've tried to do that over the years. And, looking forward, I look at customers I have internally who are my storytellers. And for our storytellers, we're trying to figure out how we can improve, there's a lot, Satya spoke today about Copilot for developers, right? And I think engineers are creative people, just as storytellers are creative people. We tell our stories through writing code. But if developers can have Copilots, why can't our producers, directors, script writers have co-pilots as well. And I think that's an area we're trying to look at to say, today we're competing with the likes of TikTok, YouTube, right? And, and Eric, Meghna, you guys are doing incredible. Apoorva, you guys are out there telling stories and, giving visibility to the diaspora, as it were. But in the end, it's always about the money, right? And if you're competing with people out there who are shooting content on their phones and so on, and while that has a monetization life of its own, I mean, look at what TikTok and Instagram Reels are worth today. We are trying to say, how do we protect our storytellers and help them to be more cost efficient, let's say, leveraging technology. We're not there yet today, but I think that's going to be a big focus area for us to bring technology to our storytellers to, just get their stories out there versus getting stuck on more funding and, those sort of conversations. We're trying to bridge that gap a bit using technology. The other area we are trying to focus on is to think in terms of saying, again, I think Kiran spoke about the massive library we have. And I think, Parinda, you and I were talking about, there's all this fabulous content that comes out. And, I would say I'm going to use the word aghast that, beyond, let's say, 8 weeks, let's say, of a show or a content launching, there isn't much life left to it. You say, well, you're on to the new thing. We just spent a ton of money building that, and how do you continue to remonetize that? And that's another focus area to think of. And there's so much content out there today; it's exhausting in some way, right? You're like, man, I can't keep up. But what is also true is content that you haven't seen is new to you. So how are we able to even take content, let's say, that came out 5 years ago, Crazy Rich Asians, or, even the Joy Luck Club for that matter, and there's so many, well-loved, I'm just coming from Mumbai where Andaza Apna Apna is back in in the theaters.
Yeah.
It's insane, right? It was a cult movie that never did well, and now it's back in the theaters. So it's fascinating, and I think trying to leverage technology there to say that, I give this example to my team about coconut tree, very Indian metaphor, I suppose, every part of the tree being valuable, to kind of say that, well, okay, what can we do to amplify the stories that are already told? While we continue to look for new stories that are being told and, improve the odds, as it were, of more stories being told, as opposed to, there being this hierarchy of, selection bias or whatever you want to call it, where, a few people get to pick what gets made. I think Meghna and I were talking about a blacklist. I'm going to steal from Meghna a little bit here, but, she was talking about these movies that never got made and are worthy and they're runaway hits and so on. So it's really, at the end of the day, I think technology helps scale and democratize, and I think that's really our focus on the next 12 to 18 months. It's incredibly hard. I think the state of the art today is not there yet. We've been using Runway, and there's this. We've been trying to. It takes us literally at least 8 odd weeks to create a really small clip, even to look at characters and anyone who's done. We're very far away today from. And it's getting. I'm shocked and quite. I think the pace at which the models are improving are insane, but you can tell stories through cartoons and statics, but getting to human motion, I think there's still a bit of ways, but we'll get there. I think that's kind of our where my attention is really.
Yeah, no, it's remarkable how technology is reshaping the distribution model so quickly. I'm just going to say that when you think about remonetization, don't forget about your good friend, the humble writers.
Absolutely.
Okay, bonus points if you can predict. How do you see the relationship between streaming and theaters evolve in the near future, now that the world is half digital and half back in cinemas?
I know it's, during COVID, I'll admit, I thought theaters were done. And I'll be the first to admit that I'm, someone in my family is a filmmaker, and we have these heated debates about, theaters being done. But I think theaters, we are at an AI conference after all. I know if things are multimodal, I think theater is a modality. I think people want to watch content with other people. They do want to watch it on a large screen. Some things are spectacular that way. Right? So, and I think going forward, you're already seeing windowing strategies change basis what's been going on now with content showing up on OTT earlier than it used to. So that's one thing. But I think just from a relationship perspective, I largely see theaters as being perhaps an extension of, going forward, an extension of really watching on your phone or your home, and then being able to perhaps self-select, saying, all right, this is something I'd love to watch in a theater with maybe, a bunch of other people who feel the same way. And I think that's probably the way forward. And we'll see, maybe on-demand movie watching.
Yeah. Apoorva, you have this incredible track record of telling globally resonant South Asian stories that win hearts and awards. Kudos, first of all. I'm a huge fan. As a producer that's working across global markets, how do you balance creative risk-taking with commercial viability when you greenlight new projects?
So a lot of what all of them said. I just feel like the big swing that or whatever secret sauce is to be able to listen to data. Very strangely. I actually am a big champion of algorithms, and as a creator, I know my creative teams have a very big resistance to notes that come through algorithms, but it really does dive. If you go into a deep note behind the note, you can really find solutions that make the content travel a lot. So very simple examples. If 42 minutes is the first episodic dropout rate for 20 shows in the year that did well, 42 minutes is the marker that you should end your first episode in, right? And how you convince your creator to go to 45 instead of 60, despite the fact that he might be very convinced about his creative choices, is the role of a creative producer that I think we play very significantly. So the note behind the note is very crucial. The second thing that I feel is dubs and subtitles. I think as a producer, that's the last step on my table. No piece goes out without me subtitling and checking dubs myself, because that's the only way the content travels. Mm-hmm. And if you can really get the idiomatic sync on how you intended or the creator intended to communicate a particular thing, and that's how Delhi Crime, being a Hindi language show, did well. Nobody believed in it. I self-financed it with a group of people who were crazy enough, despite every platform passing on it. And then we licensed it to Netflix for 3 times the price that they could have had it when they rejected it. So
that's how you get back at them.
Yeah, it's just, you have to swing and take those bets. And I hope that, and I think Eric would believe that, and I think Kiran should really look into it as well, and Meghna, who is a content creator who has very rightful concerns that people are not commissioning stuff. I think execs have to, I'll call it out, they have to grow a pair. Mm-hmm. They have to take the risk of not passing on Squid Games, not passing on Delhi Crime, not passing on Black Warrant. There's some incredible pieces out there that don't get ever made because nobody wants to bet on them. Yep. And so those are the things that really attract me, actually. If a creator has a passion to make things happen on their own, they are on my roster. And then we elevate the level of involvement. So that's exactly where, like, embrace the new, be relevant. You cannot create content for today. You need to, when you start creating today, you deliver a piece of content in 3 years. So you have to make timeless pieces. And the timelessness then can transcend any kind of format. So after Delhi Crime, I made Hunt for Veerappan, which is a doc series, which is as engaging, as commercially viable, and as interesting as it would have been for a Delhi Crime audience. So the reason why I did well was because I've catered to the 20-year-old who'd never heard of Veerappan. So put graphics and music and got the original gangsters to come on screen, which took 4 years to make, but it was very authentically true to what good storytelling does. So,
amen. May your tribe grow. Okay, I'd like to explore some industry-wide trends affecting all of you. Akash, let's address the elephant in the room. AI is now writing scripts, dubbing voices, and creating entire performances. We just saw a snap of that in the previous presentation. In the near future, they say that movie actors will just license their faces and won't even need to be on production sets for some of the roles. How do you see AI changing or AI impacting the creative and business side of media? And what will remain distinctly human?
Well, I don't know about that. I think, look, I'll go back to what I said earlier, that AI or any technology for that matter is an enabler and a scaler. Could we get, I think everything you say gets dated pretty quickly. So I still believe in the power of storytelling. And, I think could AI generate all shades of, Robert De Niro's expression or Amitabh Bachchan over there? Yeah, perhaps, I'm sure that time will soon be upon us. But ultimately, it's what, a machine learns and predicts basis what it's trained on. And I think humans, I would continue to bet on being largely unpredictable. So I think there's always going to be room for original storytelling. And, one thing I believe truly is, technology is really the fabric or the transport to how stories are told. And I think it'll continue to be that. Would it become, at some point in some perhaps dystopian future, the hero of the story, right, versus just the side cast of the story? I would like to not believe that, right? So that's I'm sticking to that in 2025.
No, that's really true, because I feel like the tension between AI as a tool versus replacement is going to be an ongoing debate, and we're going to unpack a lot in the coming years.
Parinda, AI will never have childhood trauma.
That
How
is
will
true.
How will it write compelling
It will build on other people's childhood trauma, I guess.
Till it does.
Right. Meghna, Hollywood production shrunk significantly since the writer's strike, right? We've seen a huge downfall in the number of TV pilots and movies that are getting produced, with studios retreating to safer franchise bets. Is there light at the end of the tunnel for bold, original storytelling?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking specifically from a diaspora perspective, I think there is, but it just goes beyond the traditional greenlighting methods in Hollywood. I work at a company called MGX Creative. We do film, TV, branded content. We have, a long-form documentary premiering with HBO later this year and premiering at Tribeca, about an artist called WizKid who popularized Afrobeats globally. But then at the same time, we have a lot of branded content funded by tech brands, consumer brands. We have a series with Spotify, like an artist-on-artist series. I myself have directed a documentary funded by Golden Voice about the 6 South Asian artists that performed at Coachella in 2023. And that documentary only exists, that story only exists because it was pitched to a brand and the brand agreed to fund it. So I think brands are really like powering that access and that storytelling in new ways now, and are realizing that that's what audiences will want to see. Those are stories they want to align with. So, and I think branded storytelling is also giving us an opportunity to explore, experiment with storytelling and filmmaking techniques. At MGX, we don't really distinguish between long form and short form. We treat them the same. We produce them with the same intention and quality and the desire to give consumers that cinematic experience. And I think it's also given us an opportunity to tell underrepresented stories quicker and get them out to people sooner, rather than, again, waiting for studios to greenlight projects. So I think that's one big aspect of it. But I think even in long form content, there still is light at the end of the tunnel, and it comes from people behind the scenes like us who are working to make that possible. As he mentioned, there's something called the blacklist. A lot of projects have been found on the blacklist and then have become Oscar-winning scripts. It's basically, released every year. It's on the top unproduced Hollywood scripts. And I know Gold House has done the Gold List, and then most recently this past year, they did the first ever Desi list. Yeah. Which is awesome. And so there are initiatives in both ways to really look for original storytelling and pick those out, and hopefully, people will come in and fund them. And, that's, again, our goal with Haldi Hub as well. And I think also just the more that we are, the more that South Asian creators feel empowered to use digital platforms to tell their stories, use their voices, I think that also creates like bankable stars, and that, you know, there are lots of people who have created short films on YouTube and then have gotten deals to direct films for studios. There are people that have blown up on social media and are now being cast in $1 million films in India and all over the world. So I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, it's just a matter of, again, creating those pipelines.
As a creator who's been struggling to sell original stories for the past year or so, because all I'm hearing from producers is sequels and prequels and franchises, that's very encouraging to hear. Eric, there was such a rush for diverse storytelling not too long ago, right? And it all seems to have stalled. Are you seeing that too? And what market or tech or political forces do you think are driving the shift?
Yeah, again, I think that the media industry has always followed the money. And if we as a community can show that these diverse stories are commercially viable, then the industry will follow. Crazy Rich Asians was a great example of that in live action, but in the recent few years, we've seen a huge run-up in diverse Asian-led stories on the animation side. Things like Kung Fu Panda, large Asian cast in that, Moana, very diverse Pacific Islander cast in that. And of course, you can't ignore Neza, which came from China, and it is the most successful, highest grossing animated film of all time. And as people in the media see the success of these stories, these diverse stories, and again, it's about commercial success, it will set examples that the industry will follow. So I think that's the encouragement that we see. It's it doesn't have to be in one specific type of film. It can be in all sorts of creative projects, whether it's animation or live action. But without a doubt, I think we are all showing, all the work that we're doing together are showing that these diverse stories are commercially viable, they are sustainable, and they are things that audiences are going to identify with.
Okay. So you don't see the slowdown?
I see it as a shift, yes, but not a slowdown. It's a shift.
Okay, great. Apoorva, what is one good old school storytelling technique that no matter how much tech evolves will never go out of style? You talked about childhood trauma.
No, actually, it's not a storytelling technique. It's the story dispensation technique. And I think everything, like, I really deeply resonate with Eric's point of view. You have to make your creative investable, because once people recoup their money, they will invest in you again and again. And I think that's extremely important. The commercial viability of your creative ideas you don't need to bastardize your idea, but you need to make sure that it aligns with what the audience are listening to the audience and listening to the creative producing teams is really important to be able to align better. And it's not a slowdown, it's a shift. But the big old school, listen, the arts only persisted when the monarchs supported it, right? And this is a group of technocrats sitting out here. And I will speak for, like, I'm such a big champion of Gold House, what Ping and you guys have done. It's just all the artists across the world in whatever form, we have built a business acumen. We are chasing money. We are building investable, not the 10x value, but we are building a good amount. I have never lost money on a project, which I proudly wear as a feather here in the Bay Area. You have to invest in the arts. And if the monarchs of the modern world, which are you guys, the technocrats, take that into heed, we build a better world. This is not something that is to pass on. The old school technique is to be able to keep investing in arts. And with some kind of private equity coming into our direction with specifically to the Asian narratives, I think there is power that we withhold that can unleash and begin to the big swing, which is shifting gears now. Also, if I have a AI-driven Shah Rukh Khan coming in for 2 minutes and adding 10 times the value to my franchise, hell yes, right? I think it's all about really adopting the tools, and this is to you as a writer, to be able to understand there was no digital platforms before 2012. People used to think, I went to sell the first library or buy the first library for Netflix out of South Asia, and I walked into Yashad and they said, oh, you do piracy. And look at today, right? In 10 years, we have the biggest shows. The streaming has become such a legit revenue stream. So I think that's how AI should be approached in terms of embrace it for the right reasons, let mediocrity get out of the way. And if you're a good prompter, you'll be able to churn out 5 scripts a month instead of writing just one, right? So I think that's the way to go. And authentic storytelling will never die. That's just, it just will evolve into a legitimate framework, legal, IP ownership-led models, which will help the industry thrive, maybe even grow to the 10x return that everybody here seeks.
That's such a timeless advice. I feel like sometimes the fundamentals remain powerful regardless of the platform, so that's really amazing. This I can just open up to the panel last question. Beyond completion rate and viewed hours, what are some of the other metrics for streaming that are defining success today? What kind of metrics define success today beyond completion rates and viewed hours? Is it
social commentary? Look at adolescence. It's the talk of the hour. Everybody should watch it. If you haven't, please go back and spend those precious 4 hours. It'll change your life. The way it was shot, its excellence in programming in every way possible. And it kind of shifts the way you think, and that's the power of content. And that's why you need to invest in it. It's just something that is important to acknowledge and understand and want to happen again and again in the world. Crazy Rich Asians led to a beef. Crazy Rich Asians led to a Never Have I Ever led to a Miss Marvel, where we had a Pakistani Miss Marvel, on mainstream. Every step of the way, we can cringe and we can say, oh, it's not the right representation, and that's perfectly fine. Diaspora, we're such a strong population, and we're not represented enough. And every piece that goes out there, and we stand in unity with each other instead of competing with each other, which we used to. 5 years ago, we were like daggers drawn at each other. I think the community has come together thanks to South Asian Excellence, teams, Gold House, and many, many more community-generating groups that we don't compete now. We consolidate and we think and contemplate what can we do together and make the beefs happen and the crazy situations happen, where all of us are from the same community and we break into using the indie hustle tools and get mainstream wins.
Great. Let's shift gears to a lightning round. It's the last one, so keep it quick and just moving around. First question, guilty pleasure content you would never post about on LinkedIn, but this is a safe space, so.
I've been to 14 Justin Timberlake concerts. And I'm not making that up. Oh, and I'm going to be, the Bakshi Boys are performing at the Sphere in Las Vegas. I have tickets to their first show and their second show, back to back.
Okay, Akash?
I binged Bridgerton.
Oh my God, love that.
TikTok, I would say TikTok for me, but I use it as a social listening tool, to kind of.
How cool.
I watched the
figure out what people are doing and saying.
I'll admit to the entire season of Golden Bachelorette last year. Okay, it's 2030. What futuristic storytelling tech are we all using by then? Akash, come on, you're the technologist here.
Oh my God. I'd put my money on AR experiences. I think, while I'm watching content, I want to augment it in some other way, and I should be able to summon that up. I think I see that happening.
Yeah, I was actually going to say like VR or like holographic viewing experiences that are like incredibly immersive. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. If you could instantly change one global media consumption habit, what would it be?
I think be more selective, reduce. I really hope that the future kind of becomes more customized to how you want to evolve your viewing choices and less dependency on just scrolling and media, honestly. It's against the grain of what I do, but I feel like people need to start interacting with each other more than just spending time in front of the television.
Still easier said than done. Anyone else?
Yeah. I hope that going forward we'll have more shared cultural experiences. One of the challenges of all this fragmented media is that we all can watch different things, which is great, but that also means that we all watch different things. And there's something so powerful of everyone seeing one thing and having that water cooler moment and being able to have that shared cultural experience around something. And I hope that comes back. I hope that there's something that can transcend all of the boundaries and we can all enjoy it communally and talk about it together and just share that experience together.
Yeah. I can add, I hate that publishers release one chapter at a time on reading devices because that's all the young bees can consume. That's all they have attention span for. Okay, quick advice for aspiring creators and entrepreneurs.
Stay relevant.
Stay relevant.
I think just in a sea of content and trends and things like that, just only put out what you're truly proud of.
Don't quit your day jobs. Complete the sentence. The future of storytelling is?
Female.
Love that.
Diverse.
Creative hallucination.
Global.
Okay. I'm going to steal female. Well, I think that's just what a perfect note to end on. Thank you very much, guys, for this riveting session. It was really brilliant. And thank you to all our audiences as well. I think there's one takeaway is that no matter how much tech evolves, the one thing that's human imagination is a spark that technology can never replicate. And so that's always going to lead the way. And thank you once again for all being here.
Yeah, very interesting, fascinating streaming and video. So, provocative. To what extent are books dead?
I don't think books are dead. I think, like I said, mediocrity will die. That's about it. I don't think books are dead. We just have to constantly bring back the romance around, like Eric said, cultural experiences, shared moments. It's our responsibility as our generation who did believe in flipping the pages and reading to pass on that joy of reading to the next generation. And they're relying on listicles, which is scary. And that's why I said, I hope that the future of content is people stop engaging so much with the screens, but with each other. So I don't think books are dead. I just feel like we need to hold ourselves responsible in introducing books and the idea of wonder to the next generation and do our bit.
Hi, I have a next question for all of you, especially for the Gold House. Looking at a lot of nuggets that are creating on different social platforms today and the individual artists that are raising, what do you think the future would be? Because right now they are forming their own communities, they're growing big in their own pods, and there's so many pockets that are getting created across the globe. So what do you see the next future for the production houses to be invested in?
Got it. So, I'm sorry, just so I understand the question, it's about the future of production in different parts of the country or the world?
No. The future of production or the investment that's going in different pockets, considering that there are a lot of YouTubers, there are individual artists and doing phenomenal creation individually without having a production houses currently. But then they are forming their own community. There are different pockets, there are different pods that are getting created. What do you think that, how do you future map or shapes together that this is gonna be the real future? And that is what people are attracting to. If you see the brands, they're generally going to an individual who have created their own communities. They're the one getting more funding versus the mainstream media at times. There are a lot of small to mid-sized companies are betting on them versus the bigger production houses, the bigger medias, which are costing them a immense amount of tickets to go for. And those are people who they feel they're relevant. I can provide an example to you. The beauty person, coming on a YouTube talking about, I've tried this makeup, that makeup, the Korean makeups, and the routine works for me, has worked for me, and authentically talking about this has not worked for me. And then the actresses who are embracing those high-end brands, we don't know whether they're using it affordable or whatever. People are diverting there, and there the real value and the money is right now sitting. So the future is definitely articulating or the curating a different curve altogether today.
Yeah, I think, Akash will, I think, appreciate this, but one of the most exciting things about technology is that it is lowering the cost of production as well as the cost of distribution. So your traditional gatekeepers, the stodgy, typically old white males that would control what content was created, what content was released, they just have less influence these days. John Chu, again, great director, he loves saying that every person is walking around with a production studio in their pocket these days, and that's going to unleash all sorts of interesting creative pursuits that they can be distributed on so many other platforms now. So there is no central gatekeeper anymore. It is really an open environment, an open meritocracy where the best content has a chance to rise to the top. And when that happens, the gatekeepers will follow because their number one motivation is to find things that are commercially viable. So I'm super excited because I think now technology is going to enable a lot of access to creators, and that will allow all sorts of interesting stories to be told. And once those stories find an audience, the money will follow.
I want to give you an example. Sean Baker, who won the Oscar this year for Nora, made his first 2 films on an iPhone. And both were, nominated for the Oscars, Tangerine and Florida Project. So it's just, he took an iPhone and he put it on a gimbal and he went and shot a film. So it's important to just look at those kind of journeys and pivot, and whatever is authentic, it may take some time, but the gatekeepers will follow.
Thank you so much. Can we please give this august panel and speakers a big round of applause?